are encouraged.
Can we get a cup of coffee in here, please?
Damn good coffee and hot.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with a Dog. You make me laugh.
Oh, is it morning already? More coffee, please. Good morning, America and the world. Today is Thursday, right? You know what? I think I forgot. No, I did. I got up early and put the trash out. I forgot, but I remembered. I remembered that I forgot. No, I forgot that I remembered to do it, but I did it. Okay. Have a good day. Thanks for coming. Bye for now. It's a little October-ish out here. Yeah, I don't like October. I don't like November. I really don't like December. Not fond of January or February. March starts to feel okay. So wake me up then. That's all I got to say. We have a interesting show for you today. We have an author who is a Arizona State University professor on law and politics and communications and all that kind of stuff. All the stuff you hate, we have it for you today. And then in the second hour, Ron Kane, who is a comedian from York Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Like Pennsylvania. Anyway, we have a good show for you today, but it doesn't. I'm not part of it. We'll let just the other guys take it, guys. Take it away. Yesterday, long anticipated interview for my congressional campaign, and it didn't happen. And it's my fault, but it's been rescheduled for next Friday now. Basically, the show ran much later than I anticipated. I tried to end the show somewhere around 10:45 or so, somewhere, it ended up ending at 11:15 or so. So we went like a half hour over where I intended to go. And then by the time I got dressed in my suit, my phony suit that I was going to go and be interviewed in, I realized that I was going to be a little late. So I called the studio to say, I'm going to be 5 or 10 minutes late. Not acceptable. That's not the way they do things. Got to be on time. Well, there's nothing, I'm not going to drive like a speed demon. So I guess we need to reschedule. So it's on me. It's not their fault this time. Last time it was their fault. I got COVID or something. The host got COVID. Yesterday it was on me. I fucked up. Bad me. Looks like GD is still burying bodies somewhere. I guess he didn't do enough work in the yard yesterday, but it looks like a beautiful day where he is. Look at this. See how nice it is where he is? It's not that nice.
It is beautiful. It is beautiful.
Well, go fuck yourself, asshole. Good morning. I'm sorry. I'm nasty in the morning. You know how it is. And Willie, it just looks like Willie's in the gray universe where there is no
Well,
sunshine. He's in a
I'm
room.
I'm in the kitchen because it's not even fucking light outside here yet. Okay.
Make me some bacon and eggs, dude. Quick, come on.
I mean, there are some eggs right over here. I mean, I probably could.
Wait, I lost my coffee. Have you seen? Oh, it's down there. I'm
Oh,
not.
speaking of coffee, I'm sorry. Before we get started, I don't always drink coffee, but when I do, it gives me the shit. Mine dog coffee.
I like that. I like that little slogan you came up with on your own branding. I appreciate that. It does. So you're right. There is no doubt about it. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. For me, it's generally a good thing. The quicker it gets it done, the act of shitting, the quicker I get done with that, the happier I am. I don't enjoy just sitting there. I'm not one of these people who enjoy my bowl time. I have a feeling that Willie's going to be one of these people who enjoys his bowl time.
I mean, I took the time to figure out about how long I spent on the shitter in prison, and it was a long time. I did the math once. And
see, now
that's how you know you've been there a long time. When you have the time to do the math about
yeah. That's what it felt like too. I was just like, well, I don't have a lot of better things to do with my time right now. Let's see how long I've been shitting in prison. Like,
wow.
But like when I first got out, and the reason I kind of put the number out of my head or whatever, was because I noticed that when I first got out, sometimes when people would start talking out of pocket with me or whatever, I'd say to them, like, I did more time in the shitter than I get for fucking assaulting your ass. So shut, and like, and so I wanted to like get rid of that perspective. So I just kind of, whenever I would think about it, I would just kind of redirect my thoughts so that I didn't keep putting that in there, which is part of like, when I messaged you last night about how, listen, like my dumb days are over. I'm done being stupid about
let's not jump to
petty stuff.
conclusions. Let's not like
right. Well, my premeditated dumb days are over. How about that? Well, okay. I don't even know if you can say that because I do a lot of dumb things. Just a different kind of dumb, jovial dumb. I don't mind jovial dumb. That's okay.
The thing is to slow down and not react quickly.
Yes. Yes.
And not find yourself manipulated into doing shit that you wouldn't do if you had time to think about it.
Right. Responding instead of reacting. Yeah, that's huge.
Which brings us back to the conversation from yesterday about free will, because I did look that up. It turns out, because I think one of you guys said, who the hell has time to actually study that? Scientists studying.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think GD said that.
This has been going on. It's been a debate within science and philosophy and theology for over a century. Whether
I'm sure
free will exists, and there's a huge, angry, just like with politics, just a really divisive subject, and people are. So I don't know what that thing I read was 2 nights ago that I never got to read. See, they take it away. Apple News app, they will show you stuff, and then 2:00 in the morning, and then you say, "I'm going to read that in the morning," and then when you go there, it's gone. So I don't even know where I can find that. If you Google the debate over free will, you're going to get a whole lot of stuff. A whole lot of stuff. Anyway, so I didn't get to do my interview. I was preparing for it. But
when did they reschedule for it?
Next Friday afternoon. I said, and Jackie and Peter Bales are on that day, and I can't let it run over. I have to be off by 10:45 so I can get my monkey suit and go drive there. It's quite a distance away.
From what I hear, Jackie's pretty easy to get off, so that won't be a problem.
No,
I don't know.
No, he's
only
not.
If you're a dolphin.
The thing is, I think I will probably have to leave the show running and just get in the car and let Jackie keep talking.
Yeah. I'm all in favor of that. Just let you know what we'll probably still be live streaming when you come back from your interview. Me and Jackie will just be talking still.
All right. I gotta let this start again because it's just too long a scroll here. But tonight is the night if you're on Long Island
Oh
or
yes.
New York or Connecticut and you want to go support Jackie's thing. Wait till the scroll starts again. 7 p.m. tonight, October 19th. Jackie the Joke Man. Now it's going too slow. Martling with Peter Bales at Bayman's Heritage Memorial Fundraiser, Crescent Beach Club, 333 Bayville Avenue, Bayville, New York. It's for a good cause. It's for the Bayman's Association. I don't know if you guys see when you live on the water, you notice the devastating effects of pollution and the
Sure.
environmental damage that we do. And
Yeah.
when I grew up, the South Bay, when you looked out there, all you would see is, I'm not exaggerating, probably 10,000 clam boats. Today, you won't see a single clam boat out there. It's like it's been abused and exploited to no end, and now there are no more clams. Where Jackie lives up on the North Shore, there, it's a beautiful, pristine area, but it's got its name Oyster Bay. And remember, we had that incident with me where I didn't know about oysters, but
It's
it
fucking
used to
great.
feed the world oysters, and now no, not so much. No oysters. Anyway, it's a good cause. Go out there, see Jackie and Peter Bales, and yuck it up with them. Tugboat Manny is also on the show. I don't know anything about Tugboat Manny, but I would say this: he probably has a tugboat.
It could be a euphemism
It
for
could
what he
be.
does on stage. Boat
Listen.
could be his pet name for his penis.
Oh,
So-
yeah, all of that and more. Anyway,
I have a bathroom question if you guys don't, if it's not too personal.
okay, all right. We have a
When
guest
you're in the-
waiting, but go.
Oh, no, get
No,
the
no,
guest because
no,
I can ask him too.
no. You started.
Yeah, you
All right.
put it out there now. Now we
All
want.
right, here's the deal. When you're in the bathroom, are there patterns on the floor, on the walls, and what do you see in those patterns when you look at them?
Oh, that's one of my favorite things to do in different bathrooms is to like find the different things. That's one of my pooping like rituals is to find the patterns.
I am so hung up, man. I'm glad you asked this insightful question, because self-awareness is everything, right? I'm like I got blinders on. I just want something must have happened in my childhood that made me traumatized in bathroom issues. I just want to
You
get
just
in
block
and out.
out bathroom time.
I just want to get in and out. And now that I've reached the age of prostate torture, I go in, I close my eyes, I put my arm and hands against the wall, and fall asleep with the penis hanging straight down, just waiting for it to get over. If I'm sitting there, I basically black out and try not to think about being in that position. I just can't wait for it to get over. I don't like the bathroom unless it's for a
Okay.
shower. A hot shower is all. Then I'm fully aware. But other than that, I just want to get in and out.
Okay, the guest has heard that question, so he or she can prepare their answer now, and that'll be
Yeah,
the first
right.
question.
I'm not sure that has a whole lot to do with the Supreme Court, which is what we're going to talk about.
I think we can get a ruling. We definitely need a ruling. Then it sounds like they have professional level opinions.
Before we go to a quick spot for our sponsors, do you guys have a particular recent Supreme Court ruling that you think is most affects your life or your daily life, or has a profound effect on your life now?
Well, actually, yeah. Anything that they do, the decision, I think they just in Alabama, they were forced to redistrict, and Alabama says no, screw you guys, we're not redistricting, and they continue to disregard the Supreme Court decisions that they actually were disenfranchising black voters in Alabama. Now, of course, I don't live in Alabama, but any precedent that the Supreme Court set, affects everybody.
Sure.
And Alabama elected to disregard for 2 years, which gave them gave the Republicans an additional seat in Congress that they probably would not have had
Right.
they, so that's one.
Okay. That's a good one. So it hasn't affected your life yet, but you anticipate it will.
Well, it can. Right now, I live in a decidedly blue state, but if my wife has her way and we move to Florida, it could affect me seriously wrong. I
Wait,
could go into therapy.
we'll have to have a talk after our first guest is off the air about this, because I know your wife is a very left wing, politically inclined person, and Florida
Yes,
is the last place I would be thinking about moving if that were my inclination. So,
right, and we've lived there before, so it's not like we don't know.
yeah, okay. So before we get to our guest, let's talk about Creative Live. Creative Live. Listen, our guest has written a book, and if you want to write a book, he's written many books, by the way. If you want to write a book or help get with any of your creative ideas, Creative Live is a place to go with over 2,000 courses on everything in the world of creativity. Creative Live can help you, and there's a special discount for Coffee with the Dog listeners, 70% off store-wide, site-wide, all their courses. Check it out, Creative Live.
It's time to unleash your creative excellence. Dreams won't work if you don't. They never happen overnight, and they rarely follow a straight line. Excellence is a result of the hustle, consistently pushing to do better. And success looks different for everyone. CreativeLive.com charts paths and tailors content for students, but they also encourage independent thinking and exploration. Go outside of your comfort zone. Who knows, you might actually like it. Right now, you can get up to 70% off through this exclusive offer for Coffee with the Dog. CreativeLive.com has site-wide sale for Coffee with the Dog listeners. Save up to 70% off. Go to minddogtv.com and click on the link on the homepage now.
You know, when I was in school back in the 1800s, I used to get busted all the time for showing up my first class, still half asleep, like I am this morning. I hope Dr. Russomano doesn't beat me up like my old professors used to do. Dr. Joseph Russomano takes readers on a revealing journey through his influence of worldviews. Do you know what a worldview is? In daily American life, in his new book, The Stench of Politics, Polarization and Worldview on the Supreme Court. Dr. Russomano passionately delves into the court's transformation from a revered institution to one driven by political outcomes, shedding light on how the mirrors and divisions within the country. Ladies and gentlemen, please open your ears, open your minds, and get ready to learn something with Dr. Joseph Russomano. Welcome, Dr. Joseph.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So, this is new. This politicization. I don't. Of the Supreme Court. It's new. It's not. They have not always been politically divided. I think they have. Yes or no?
It's not a new phenomenon, but it's certainly at its most extreme, I think, that we've ever seen in the past. We've seen divided courts before, but the degree that politics is embedded and influencing the court and various decisions, I don't think has ever been greater.
Is that not a reflection of society today, and just how we are? We're extremely divided, and we're extreme. I think very hard to find a moderate person. We use the word moderate or those kind of words all the time, but I haven't found too many people that fit that. So is that just a reflection of who we are at this moment?
I agree completely with that. It very much is. And in fact, in the book, I do begin with a look at how polarized we are nationally, and that there is this sort of symbiotic relationship between society at large and the court. That said, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask and expect our courts, especially the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, to maintain a level of integrity and neutrality, objectivity when it examines cases. But instead, we're not getting that.
Right. Is that the individuals on the court's responsibility? Because listen, if you get nominated for a Supreme Court, you're not going to turn it down, and nobody is. And so but you're also not going to change who you are. You might, you might in the confirmation try to paint yourself as a moderate to try to please people because you want that job. Who doesn't want that job, right? So is it the personal responsibility of the people on the court, or is it the bias of the president who is nominating them and the Senate confirmation make the makeup of the confirmation in the Senate body in the Senate? Whose responsibility is it?
You have, in fact, tapped into a major element of the book, and that is that you're absolutely right that any of us are going to see the world and the nation, through our own prism, through our own lens, through our own filters. And in fact, that's what in the book I call worldview. We all have our own worldview, and we can maybe dive into that a little bit more in a minute. But so yes, we're always going to see issues through our own worldview. So you're absolutely right that a major part of the problem, as I see it, is the political nature of who is nominated and the confirmation process. I mean, it is a political process run by politicians. So how can we expect anything but a political institution in the Supreme Court?
Yeah. In case you don't know, the guy up in your right-hand corner, I guess it would be, he's burying somebody he just murdered. So
just evidence. It's only evidence. Just so that it doesn't make it to the Supreme Court.
No worries.
I'm wondering what people just tuning into this are thinking, because it's been the stench of politics is out there as promoting what
we're trying to bury it,
and the Supreme Court stuff. And then you tune in and you see some guy in his, it looks like, I don't know, burying something in his. What people must be thinking.
I'd like to ask a question if I could. So this, I've always had the feeling, and I think this is kind of, what I learned in school, of that no matter what a judge's personal feelings are, like that's not really what a judge is about or supposed to do. Like, the best judge is the judge that can remove their own personal feelings about a matter and just look at the facts of what is right and what is wrong here, and so, like, the fact that this is the problem that we're having is really disheartening, because what it tells me is that these judges are not judging. Justice is supposed to be blind. The whole reasoning for a judge is the ability to remove your own personal feelings about an issue and just judge each case on its own merit. Am I wrong in that perception?
Before you answer that question, I want to add a little tag onto it, because I think Willie's experience mostly has been with criminal court case judges,
True.
civil court case judges. The Supreme Court is supposed to interpret a document that was written 250 years ago, and the language doesn't always easily translate to today's language, especially like things with the Second Amendment. We can argue over the well-regulated militia and what does that mean in the sentence and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that complicates it. So it's really hard to separate your own bias when reading, or maybe worldview is what you're going to call that. When reading the document they're supposed to be supporting, it's really hard to remove yourself from that because the language is not today's language. Yes,
right.
There is a lot to unpack in what you each have said there. First of all, yes, I would agree that we would like to think that any judge or Supreme Court justice is going to set aside their personal prejudices, their personal biases when looking at a particular case and evaluating it. That said, what we know is that people are being selected, being nominated to the court with the idea that they will not do that, that they will in fact bring
That sucks.
that they will in fact bring their political biases to their decision making. I mean, you look at, Donald Trump still has three nominees on the court. They were selected, and other presidents have done this too. They were selected with the explicit understanding that they would make certain kinds of decisions on the court in certain ways. I mean, Trump, during his campaign, specifically said that one of his goals was to overturn Roe versus Wade. And what he means by that is to select justices who will do that. Well, guess what? He got his way. Roe versus Wade was overturned in 2022, just last year. So on the other point, yes, we have a constitution, and that is what largely the Supreme Court justices are dealing with. They are there to interpret the Constitution and apply it to the circumstances of a given case. But how that interpretation happens depends on, guess what? The justice's worldview.
And I was going to say what they had for breakfast. I was so close.
Well, I happen to know the Supreme Court drinks Mind Dog coffee every day with their breakfast, so maybe that helps with it.
Well, hopefully that gives them some clarity of mind. But in some cases, they're apparently not having enough of that coffee.
Let me ask you this, because you're right that Trump did campaign on that. But those two out of the three, anyway, I'm not sure Gorsuch, but Barrett and Kavanaugh lied about their intent to overturn Roe v. Wade in their confirmation hearing. They flat out lied, and they said they, basically wouldn't touch precedent and would leave it alone. Is that a criminal, or is that perjury? Is that a criminal offense?
Some would say, unfortunately, no, it is not. But you're absolutely right that the notion that Roe versus Wade was, so to speak, settled law. I think that was the exact term that Kavanaugh used, and the implication was that it would not be touched. Was clearly, watch the shiny object over here while I'm doing something else over there, sort of approach. I mean, it even goes back to now Chief Justice Roberts during his confirmation hearing, where he said that he viewed the job of a Supreme Court justice, to simply to call the balls and strikes, as he put it, to be the umpire, not to make law, but to be the neutral arbiter of what's going on. Well, clearly that has not happened either.
Right.
I have a question, Doc.
Okay, we can show the book without covering up Willie. That's pretty cool. Go ahead with your question.
All right. See, I love to think of solutions, and my solution to this whole mess is expanding the court to 13 justices, but only having a random 9 hear any case. That way, you can't have a designer case because you don't know who's going to hear it.
That's not a bad idea.
You know what? I am getting the feeling more and more that you guys have read the book.
Actually, I can't read, and if Willie doesn't have the time to slowly mouth it to me, I won't know what is in it.
I have started to read the book. I'm not that deep into it.
That is exactly one of the recommendations that I make in the book. Not only, exactly as you said, not only to expand the court, but to keep the number of justices who hear a given case at 9, to select the 9 at random on a rotating basis, which, by the way, is what our U.S. courts of appeal do. They operate.
Yes, that's where I stole the idea from. That's where I stole it from. It was not original.
They operate exactly that way. And many people advocate, and I am among them, that why not model that because it has worked so well in that venue.
It's your take on that, that opinion growing, because listen, the majority rules, and if the majority or tries to rule, sometimes can't rule even with a majority, but the people in who hold the power now are not inclined to support that. Things could change, and things do change, and that's the good thing about our system. But right now, what would be the Republican reason to support that or go along with that? Would there be any reason they would?
Boy, you're asking me to read minds of people who.
Well, I'm basically
Well,
asking you
don't read minds. Read wallets. Read wallets.
if I'm the dealer and I make the rules,
Yeah.
what incentive do I have to make it a fair and even equitable system? I'm winning.
Well, as you're suggesting, a lot of people, including those who you mentioned, prefer the status quo. They like the system as it is now. It is benefiting them, and so why change it? In fact, let's not change it. They're thinking. I think what we would hope for is that, among other things, public pressure would start to have an influence. You see you see public. Yes, I know that in some ways that's laughable, but we do see public opinion polls that are done on a regular basis about the Supreme Court, and the credibility of the court, for many of the reasons that we've been talking about here, is plummeting. It's in a nosedive.
Right.
People don't trust the Supreme Court. They see it as overly political. They see it as an institution that accomplishes things other than equal justice under the law. And so if there's enough groundswell from the public, we would hope, and again, I understand it may be a fleeting hope, but we would hope that would have influence, that our congressional representatives would actually listen to us.
I think we saw it in a small
Go ahead.
degree in the last election, because there were predictions of a red wave that didn't come true, and I think Roe v. Wade had a lot to do with that. But just it's not like I wouldn't call it a groundswell. I would call it a small pushback on the way, but we did see that public opinion of the court and the court's decisions can affect the next election. So that's hopeful, right?
Right. I mean,
I would like to think so. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I think people like me hope to send the message is to help people realize that the United States Supreme Court impacts all of our lives. Its decisions impact all of our lives in various ways, and that it matters who is sitting on the court, and it matters who is selecting the nominees and who is confirming the nominees. So,
right.
And that happens at the ballot box.
All right, one more thing, and then I'll let you ask your question you were going to ask, GD. Before we went to the break, I asked the guys which recent decision has affected their life, and GD came up with the Alabama, voting district redistricting, but something like Roe v. Wade being overturned had an immediate effect on people's lives. Other decisions, they may have an effect, but sometimes it takes a long time to realize that effect, and so you're not going to see people react to it as quickly. Can you think of the most recent ones that are the most impactful on people's lives short term?
Well, in the book, I focus on a few areas, and in fact, we've touched on two of them. The abortion rights and voting rights. Voting rights is incredibly important while the Supreme Court, on the one hand, has done some good things in trying to protect voting rights with the reapportionment of districts in various states, or preventing a gross skewing of the drawing of the lines of those districts. On the other hand, the Supreme Court has chipped away at the U.S. Voting Rights Act time and time again, including in a case that stemmed from my current state of residence, Arizona. And so the degree to which Americans are being allowed to maintain their right to vote. I mean, I just alluded to the fact of how important the vote is in the ultimate selection of Supreme Court justices, and yet that same Supreme Court is setting up obstacles for people to be able to vote, and that is especially affecting people of color.
Right. Gardner Man, did you have a question
Yeah.
that I interrupted?
Oh yeah, no problem. You didn't interrupt it. You just utterly destroyed my world. No, we were talking about the voters having a say and maybe influencing these decisions. But a lot of the people making these decisions, justices and Congress alike, are enriching themselves to a state where they can actually isolate themselves from ever having to hear what the voters actually say or being affected by what they say. So you don't want to have to like cut off their purse strings before they'll get to listen, because that's the only time they're going to get to listen is if we just cut off their purse strings. So, which would take get rid of quote corporate personhood. Can we is that a conceivable thing? Like amending the Constitution, defining what a person is, so that we know a corporation is not a person.
Those are always options. It's very unlikely that the Constitution would be amended, especially in a politically divided time as we're living in now. Traditionally, historically, our hope has been to accomplish things like this through the courts. That the courts are institutions of justice, and that they will see the light and rule in ways that are beneficial to the most number of people. And yet, largely what my book is about is that this is not happening to the degree that we would hope.
Right. I think it's kind of weird because the average person is, if we talk about average, obviously average intelligence and average intellectual curiosity and just it's pretty low in America. But so the public gets a bad rap on this. I'm coming back to the book on this. As a college professor, did you write this book for people? Because it's hard to get people even engaged in understanding what the issues are, never mind think about them in a deep way of how it affects their lives. I have these conversations all the time with people, and you'd be surprised how little they know. They just want to sit on the couch and let their favorite talking head on television give them their talking points without thinking about them too much. Is the book written for smart people, or or have you dumbed it down? Because it's important to get through to people, and I think somehow you have to dumb it down a little bit, don't you, if you want to really affect change?
Point taken. I approach this, and you mentioned that I'm a college professor. I approach my teaching in this way too. Is we talk about trying to make the material accessible, that we present it in a way that hopefully a large number of people can grasp, and that it will resonate with them. And so, I like to think that that the material in this book is presented in a way that is accessible, and that can reach people, and that will be understandable to a large number of people.
As somebody who is in communication with the younger generation today, are they and I know you only see a small subset of the younger generation. You're seeing people who actually applied to Arizona State University and got accepted, and I'm assuming they're not all freshmen. So people who are more intellectually stimulated in the first place, but are they more engaged than the senior citizens who, let's say, are more inclined to just be television watcher, come home from work and be exhausted and just want their information spoon fed to them?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, bear in mind that I teach in a school of journalism, so my students are very plugged into the news media of all stripes, and are tend to be extremely informed on the issues.
That'd be interesting to get the entire class on like grill them and see, because my generation, and I think you, from the looks of you, you're probably close to my generation. Uh, they seem to be really not interested in thinking about what they're saying or any of these kind of things. They go with this is what, and they almost verbatim spit out the talking points that whatever cable news media they get their talking points from. They spit them out verbatim. Are you an optimist? I mean, obviously, you wouldn't write the book if you didn't have a degree of optimism for change. But are you realistically an optimist for the future of America?
Um, you hear the hesitation in my answer.
Yeah.
Um, I suppose, big picture, yes, I remain optimistic, but I will concede that it is becoming more and more difficult to remain optimistic. And for many of the reasons that you cite, more and more people are going into their silos, their information silos. We are very tribalistic. This is another issue that I delve into in this book. And we have loyalty to our tribe and tend not to want to hear and accept any information that is contrary to what our fellow tribe members believe, because we don't want to be ostracized by that tribe. And so to exact change becomes more and more challenging. You're absolutely right.
Now, I am used to being ostracized, but I hate being emued. That's what really hurts me. Like right here, when people have emued me, I can't take it.
That's
I don't mind being ostracized.
big bird humor from the guy in the garden. Thank you very much. As an illustration of what you just said, a couple of years ago, probably about 5 years ago now, I put on Facebook as a legitimate question: if Donald Trump asked you to kill me for him, would you do it? And people were reluctant to say, they couldn't say no because they were afraid that their fellow Trumpers would see that and hold that against them. How dare you say no? That's how extreme it's gotten with the cult mentality that we have to, you use tribalism, that tribal mentality that I can't even broach a really sensible position that doesn't go along with the tribe's talking points or marching orders and all that kind of stuff. So I don't see any way back from that. But the question remains, and I kind of, this is a rephrasing, I guess, of a question I already asked. Does it start with changing Congress and the Senate, and I guess the presidency too? But I'm thinking, I'm running for Congress. And yesterday I was set for a television interview. My whole shtick was that running as an independent is really important. I think the parties are what's killing us right now. This two-party system where the parties are insisting that we hardline every issue according to the parties, and
it's
independence
so
and the ability to make decisions that reflect the representation of the people who are voting for us rather than the people who are putting money in our campaign. That is lost with the two-party system, because I know there's a very long-winded way of saying this, but when you get elected, even if you're of the best motivation, the party will tell you, no, you got to keep getting reelected, especially in Congress and the Senate too. But you have to keep those lobbyists and special interests putting money in your campaign, because you're not going to get anything done in one term. You got to go for more terms, and keep doing it. And so before you know it, you've been corrupted by the system that is letting money in. I think it's the two-party system. So we can't even approach independent thinking in any way because the system won't allow it. Do you think that the answer is more parties?
I would agree with you that there is a downside to the current party system. I mean, if we can go back to tribalism, the political parties are in fact tribes, and that loyalty in various degrees remains very important. We might also note that there are tribes within the parties. I mean, look what's going on in Congress now, and
Right.
with the Republicans trying to select a new Speaker of the House. They can't even come together on that because they're so split. And how are they split? Well, one way to look at it and to analyze that is that they have become tribes. They're being separated in their own tribes and can't come together. So, I mean, this whole notion, this whole dynamic is very problematic. It's a very dangerous thing, and it's an uphill struggle to try to set it right.
Right.
And to those who are attempting to do that, a tip of the hat to their efforts.
Code of ethics for the Supreme Court is a big thing now. Amy Coney Barrett
Yeah.
supposedly supports the idea of a code of ethics, but as
But
CD
not
brought
what
up
they are.
yesterday, right, we haven't defined exactly what those ethics are. But when I think it started in probably I'm short-term memory, but Clarence Thomas was the first guy who was just like, this guy can't be he shouldn't be have any public office at all. I mean, I believe Anita Baker or Anita Hill. I'm
Hill,
sorry, Hill, and I'm sorry,
the other
Anita
black
Baker.
woman,
Yeah, the
the
other
other
black
black
one.
Anita.
Yeah, yeah, right. But I believed her. But now we had Kavanaugh. We have all these just seemingly people who don't deserve to be on the court. Will a code of ethics address any of what you're talking about?
Well, it will certainly be helpful, but you touch on a very important point. Exactly what will be in that code, and to what extent will it be enforced? I
Yeah.
mean, you can have rules on paper or on a computer screen, but unless they're enforced, and how will they be enforced? The court is largely self-policing, and that's the problem. We've relied to a large extent on whoever is the chief justice at any given time to rein in members of the court who are straying in an ethical or other sort of way. But the current chief justice has been apparently very reluctant to do that. There's been pushback from him and other members of the court, for example, Justice Alito, on Congress being able to pass any sorts of guidelines or codes of ethics that might regulate the court. So, it's another example of this political struggle, this political tug of war that we see uh, involving the Supreme Court at its center. I would say, if I can add to that, one other recommendation in my book, in addition to expanding the court, is term limits.
Yeah.
As you know, currently Supreme Court justices have lifetime terms. They can stay there as long as they want until they choose to step down or until they pass away. A lot of people are pushing back on that now and saying that there should be a limitation. 18 years has been a common length of a term limit. And so if that were imposed, it would change. It would begin to change and remedy some of the issues that we're talking about.
Yeah, a lot of people were mad at Ginsburg for not getting out during the Obama administration. Seeing that I'm old enough, I should retire because there's a good chance I'm going to die on the next.
Well,
That's
not a
a,
good chance. There's a great chance.
yeah.
Well, and the other thing about that was though is that it would have given Obama a chance to choose another
Exactly. No,
nominee.
that's exactly
Yeah.
why. Yeah. So just a final question on this thing. It seems like we've come back to the original argument when the Constitution was being written about the balance of power, and does that code of ethics and giving Congress the ability to regulate the bench, does that uh, alter the balance of power between the three branches in a significant way that is detrimental to the Constitution?
No, I don't think so. As long as what Congress attempts to do, and I can't imagine, at least I would like to think I can't imagine that Congress would do anything that would in any way affect the content of what the court is dealing with, of affecting the kinds of decisions that they make, but simply would provide broadly structured guidelines in terms of how the court operates
Right.
and the sorts of, I mean, as you know, you raised the issue with Justice Thomas. The large the primary problem there is the political favors that he seems to be accepting. If nothing else,
You're so polite.
if nothing else, there is the appearance of impropriety, and that needs to be eliminated. That needs to be dealt with.
Right.
So as long as a code of ethics would deal with those sorts of general areas that are equally applied to every member of the court, regardless of his or her political ideology, then I think we're very much in safe territory.
Well,
The-
I would just add to that, though, but that should be extended to all three branches because you see people in Congress who are up for Speaker of the House who are their net worth is well above what you would expect of somebody who makes $174,000 a year. The max they've ever made is $174,000 a year, and they're worth $40-50 million. You say, well,
Yeah.
we need to discuss also across all branches of government that
Well,
transparency and
I know
appearance of impropriety needs to be addressed. So
I know that for me, if Congress votes to put term limits on the Supreme Court and not themselves, I'll probably lose my shit. Like,
yes. Yeah, well, and that's a tough thing. I mean, it's a human nature thing. And again, it's a part of that corruption thing where you need to keep getting elected. I am running for Congress and I'm running for George Santos' seat. So I think I'm as an independent. So I think I have a decent chance if the guy I'm running against is probably going to be in jail. But I'm only running for one term. But it's human nature for people to say, well, once you're in there and once the party starts saying you
once
need
they
to
get
get
their
elected
hooks in.
again. So all that stuff. Listen, I appreciate you being here. I hope you've educated us a little bit.
Can I ask him one question before he leaves?
Sure. I just want to plug the book. The Amazon link
yeah.
is in the description and it's clickable. Now, I also have your, I don't know if this is any value to anybody unless they're looking at journalism schools, but I also have your ASU profile in there in case people want to find out about it. Go ahead, GD. You got another question before we say goodbye?
Yeah. In terms of, okay, the justices that are in charge of the cases that are before the court with Donald Trump as of right now, they seem to be paying a lot of deference to the fact that he's a presidential candidate. But running for president is a privilege, it's not a right. We know the rights are to a fair trial, to those are the rights. But they're giving seems like they're giving more deference to him being a candidate. And once you're a defendant, you actually give up some of your First Amendment rights. So I'm just wondering what you, as a professor, think of that, and do you make your students sit in the corner for asking these questions?
Well, let's hope that none of his cases actually reach the Supreme Court. If they're appealed to that level, then I think that is a red flag that something has gone haywire, which is entirely possible. But what we saw earlier this week, a gag order being placed on the former president, a partial gag order. It was
Right.
emphasized, and he complained, not surprisingly, that his First Amendment rights as a presidential candidate were being restricted. And he was, making a big deal about the fact that, he was the first presidential candidate that this has ever happened to. But let us know, he's also the first presidential candidate who's been a criminal defendant.
Yeah.
And when you're a criminal defendant and make use of your speech freedom in ways that can influence the outcome of your trial, then that's a problem. And the judge was well within her rights to try to maintain the integrity of the judicial process by limiting his ability to influence the outcome of his trial. We would want that with regard to any criminal defendant.
Yeah, but they're still giving him privileges that the average citizen would not get because he's running for president. I mean, I think the average citizen will probably be under house arrest or be in jail. Like they're acting like there is no he has no constitutional right to Secret Service. No, that's totally up to the discretion of the Department of Homeland Security, the Director of Homeland, Secretary of Homeland Security, Majorca. They could drop that. He does not have to have that. They don't have to worry about that. So
I'm pretty sure they protect all former presidents, though.
No, but they don't have to. Is what I'm saying. That's a call. That's a courtesy. That's not a right.
They weren't thinking about that in the times of writing the Constitution. That
Yeah, I'm saying so. They can throw him in jail and not worry about his protection because he's not entitled to protection. That's a courtesy. But once you start, doing the things that he's done, if I did the things he's done. Well, forget that. I'd be shot already. If Willie did the things he done, Willie would be doing time. Again.
Well, again.
Yeah, again. Thank you.
Anyway, let's wrap this up. Dr. Russomanno, I appreciate you being here. I do encourage people to read the book. It's a little bit over my head, to be honest with you, but I'm getting there. This whole idea of worldview, it's hard for me to wrap. To discern the difference between that and just political bias, but I'm getting there. So I appreciate you being here. I hope people pick up the book. It's available at Amazon. And you'll see you've written many books. I wish you good luck with it, and I hope it gets people thinking at the very minimum. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
I didn't get to say what's up, Doc. I'm sorry. What's up, Doc? I meant to say that.
All right. Bye for now. Have a great day. I always do that right in the middle of thank you. Interesting stuff there. Interesting stuff. Listen,
my wife's eyes would have glazed over, and if he were a dinner guest, he would never get out of my house.
Willie and I argued a little bit about a Supreme Court decision that pushed back against the governor of New York. There's this law in New York where people were getting searched. It came up about because they were getting searched for weapons in going into stadiums. And Willie thought that people should be allowed to have concealed weapons in stadiums. And then last night he said, so Willie, seeing that video that you sent me, do you have any change of heart about whether those people should have concealed weapons? You're muted.
Of course. Hey, we can't have an episode without me having a mute issue. Okay. All right. But hang on now, and I mean, I'm sure there's tape or whatever. We can go back, but I don't recall saying that people should be able to have weapons in stadiums. I don't.
Yeah.
I said that.
Yes, you did, and I was saying it's all. You don't know New York because it's only a matter of time before somebody at a Giants or Jet game gets shot, and you say,
right.
I doubt that will happen. Your position was that
was I on mushrooms?
I don't know what you are, but it was very much the Second Amendment, the real staunch Second Amendment supporter argument that a good guy with a gun will intimidate a bad guy with a gun, or
Okay.
Which is
Maybe you know
bullshit,
what?
but go
Maybe I
ahead.
did. Maybe I did. I may have said that because I could see me like resting on that idea that like somebody else with a weapon could probably stop somebody with that.
so
I mean,
that was a decision by the Supreme Court that I think affected my. I think it's listen. It hasn't happened yet. I predicted it would happen already, but with all the violence we're seeing in stadiums,
it's pretty bad.
yeah, and so to just allow people not be searched for weapons, you're talking about 50, 60,000 people coming into a stadium, and they could all be packing.
Yeah, but the likelihood of that is pretty slim. For all of them to be back,
No,
maybe.
you're right. Of course.
But all it takes is one bullet to change one family's life
No,
forever.
that's true, and that's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're seeing it on the rise. So, that is a decision that was made really by a court that is absolutist with the Second Amendment. Now, I'm not an
Right.
anti-gun guy. I'm not an anti-gun guy, but I think there need to be regulations and ideas like that New York State had
Yeah.
that you should not be able to carry a concealed weapon into Yankee Stadium, City Field, Giant Stadium, whatever.
I have a hard time thinking that I said that because for sporting events and stuff, no, I don't think people should have it at a sporting event. But I will say like that gunman that you're in 2020, I think no, I think it was late 2019. There was a gunman that went into a church in Texas and was shot down by the parishioners of the congregation members of the church shot him. Like the dude busted into a church and like 9 other people pulled out a gun and shot his ass.
Right.
So who would think that you need to take a gun to church? You know what I mean? But nowadays, and so it's, I don't know, it is kind of murky at best. You know what I mean? Because it's
no, I don't think.
But because that worked once, that's like saying playing the lottery is a great retirement plan. It's not like
true.
It's not like it's first of all, you have to rely on someone who's willing to shoot somebody. Not everybody is a Dick Cheney. Not everybody's willing to shoot somebody in the face. And quite often these crimes are committed by people that you know. You're going to sit there and go like, "Hey, Billy, I'm going to shoot you in the face. I know your family, but I've always liked your wife." So
also the argument is that you should leave security up to the citizens, where the idea behind the New York State law was that security would take place outside the stadium by security officials doing the search of people. So if in that church situation you had security guards at the front door saying, "No, you can't bring a gun in here," that situation wouldn't have never happened. And that is the law that the Supreme Court struck down, is you're not allowed to search those people before they go in. You're not allowed to they're allowed to conceal carry in public places. And that is dangerous because we are seeing more and more people just fly off the hook.
Right. Well, I would like to see a restriction as far as like anywhere that alcohol is being served, which stadiums would qualify under, because that's one thing about Texas that I don't necessarily agree with, is the mixing of alcohol and guns. So so prevalently, you know what I mean? Like when alcohol's involved, let's get rid of the guns.
Used to work for ESPN, had a really, he was saying, "It's hard gun and hand liquor night." No, hard liquor and handgun night at the stadium. Bring the kids. That kind of,
Well, actually, Willie, that's a great idea. I think the law across the land should be, if alcohol is being served, guns are not allowed. And then we serve alcohol everywhere across the country. Schools, churches, grocery stores, subways, bus stops, just put alcohol everywhere. Gun problem solved. Willie, damn it, you're a fucking
found
genius.
the loophole. GD found the loophole. Way to go.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all, because then we will be substituting shooting deaths for people beating each other to death slowly. I mean,
or killing themselves with alcohol, mind
right,
you.
right. Just doesn't work for me.
But we'll thin the herd. We'll thin the herd.
Right.
Those livers can't last forever.
Right.
Those livers can't last forever.
You know, one form of alcohol that will not lead to you wanting to shoot anybody and it generally mellows you out is naked wines. Naked wines are a new way of buying wine where you invest in the winemaker. Everybody wins. The winemaker makes a better profit. You get wine, excellent wine cheaper. You have better control over the product that you're getting. If you're a wine lover, please consider Naked Wines.
Welcome to a better way to buy wine. NakedWines.com is a customer-funded wine business. We don't just sell wines, we make them happen. Since launching in the UK in 2008, Angels have helped us invest in over 159 independent winemakers in 14 different countries. Turns out, it's better business for everyone. Our winemakers get to sell all of their wines and make a living. We make the same margins as everyone else and have a lot of fun along the way. And as a wine drinker, for the $40 a month you probably would have spent on wine anyway, you'll get wholesale prices. You can be sure that all of our wines have been lovingly made by a talented winemaker and stripped of all the costs that add nothing to the flavor or quality of the juice in the bottle. Support independent winemakers. Get better wine in return. With the support of 300,000 wine drinkers, we fund talented independent winemakers up front. This way, they get to spend all of their attention on making you the best wine possible. World-class wine, direct from talented independent winemakers. A better deal, up to 60% off market prices. A better way to discover tasty new favorites with over 2 million reviews from wine drinkers like you. Become an Angel today. Get started by visiting minddogtv.com and click the banner on the homepage now.
How much you want to bet Willie's going to be muted when we come back? How much you want to bet? You want to bet? Willie, are you muted? No? He's not
muted.
Wow. He's got the anti-mute on.
I had the foresight. I had the foresight this time.
Well, I love that little thing I don't know what you call those, that is blowing in front of GB right now.
Isn't that some sort of like cocktail thing or something? Isn't that cotton? What do they call it?
I don't know.
Well, it's not cotton because I don't have cotton in my yard.
Not cotton. No, like
You just see a black guy, you figure he's picking cotton.
Oh Jesus! Fucking here we go.
I've done that just because I wanted to know. I wanted to know what my ancestors did that, and I did that for like 20 minutes. And I said, "Fuck this shit." after 20 minutes of picking cotton without gloves, I said, "Fuck this."
Hell, motherfucker, no.
Yeah,
bro, I can't even imagine how bad that would dry out your fucking fingers.
Well, let me just mention that to get off the plantation, all of us, we are selling T-shirts. We have new designs in the T-shirts. Why am I not sharing this? Allow that. Okay. Yes, it's just taking a minute. Relax. Okay, we have new designs in the for the church. We have Church of Last Resort shirts and cups and things like that in the store. We have two different new designs for that. One is the frame picture of the Rev. The other is just a silhouetted with a angel glow around.
Oh, she looks like she really likes you.
She definitely does. And then we have the Willie design that design that
my drum choice is more
quite popular.
Designer Willie's.
I don't know why they put the threads in front of.
I know. I thought that was a dumb choice too for the pictures of why they usually they wouldn't do that.
This is a better picture, and his drug of choice is more. So those are the latest items in the store. We hope you'll get them, or at least check them out. Tell your friends about them.
My wife, My wife and I were arguing about my drug of
Wait a
choice
minute.
being more yesterday.
You argue with your wife? I've never argued with my wife ever.
Well, that's great for you. I'm really glad that you found a way to make that fucking happen because I haven't figured it out yet.
No, I just say she wins. You win. You're right. You're
But
absolutely right.
and so I didn't tell you guys this. I didn't mention anything about this because I mean I haven't really wanted to talk about it. But
Uh-oh.
I had some sort of medical event the other day, and I probably should have went to the hospital, but I didn't.
Getting your
And
dick stuck in your zipper is not a medical event.
it is if you're Ben Stiller. I mean,
All right.
I beg to differ, sir.
You don't have to beg.
Just rip it out.
No, I did have a pretty scary
Get to
incident
the point.
where,
What happened?
I mean, I don't know specifically because I'm a fucking dickhole dude and I didn't go to the hospital.
Chest pains. What was?
I mean, yeah, there was some chest pains. I couldn't really breathe for a while. I had a real bad dizzy spell, and I had more dizzy spells throughout the rest of the day. But we kind of surmised that maybe I shouldn't have like 4 monsters in a day. That
Right.
because what happened is like, and this is really gonna get you. So I had like 4 monsters that day, and then my wife came home from work and we had sex, and my heart said, "You're a fucking asshole," and I quit. You know, like, yeah, no, it's fucking, it was, yeah.
Wait a minute, your wife still wants to have sex with you after coming home?
Listen, bro. Listen,
does she know what you look like? Has she seen your face? I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, yeah, she's seen these dimples.
All right, it's time to bring in our next guest. Ron Kane is a York Harrisburg comedian, co-host of DNR podcast, which sounds like they could add Willie on as a guest in DNR.
Yeah, do not
CEO of Two Canes Productions. He's here now, and it's just a couple of days after his birthday, so you guys sing happy birthday to him. Ron Kane, welcome to Coffee with the Dog. Go ahead, guys, sing happy birthday to him.
Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday to you. Which version, white or black version?
Wow.
Well, I know since GD's doing it, it's completely insincere.
No, you know I wish you a happy birthday. You know I love you, man. You know I have nothing but love for you. Nothing.
No, I know that. No, I know that.
And this much contempt and jealousy. Okay, just full disclosure. Full disclosure. Ron has had more sex in more states than I have. Okay, and we're not counting the state of inebriation and the state of poverty. We're just talking about geographic states. He's had sex in more states than I have, and I'm trying to catch up, but I'm also like 20 years older than him, so it's harder.
Oh, that makes it more depressing. I bet.
Yeah. Ron, now, I don't know if you know this, but GD earlier in the week said you won't do his podcast, but you've done this podcast, and he was really upset about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have to teach him a lesson, so.
What is the DNR podcast all about? Do Not Resuscitate podcast. What is that all about? I don't know if that's what DNR stands for. I'm just assuming that's what it stands for.
Yeah, it could be Department of Natural Resources podcast, you know.
All right, what's it all about?
The DNR podcast is exactly that. Do not resuscitate. It's just because my co-host Damien, some people think because his name is Damien and I'm Ron, we're Damien and the Damien and Ron podcast, but no, it's actually Do Not Resuscitate. And we just decided because when we started of our age, and we talk about a little bit of everything. We talk about our lives mainly, and just things that are happening sometimes, in the world. We try not to get too heavy sometimes because, I mean, what do we know? We're just 2 local jerks from Harrisburg. So.
Do you have guests on, or is it just you two bantering back and forth?
We've had guests on before, but most of the time it's just me and Damien because just the way that we run the DNR podcast. We run it very lean, so we'll show up. Sometimes it would just be us and the phone and the 2 lavalier mics, and that's how we do it.
Opie and Opie Radio, Opie and Anthony.
Yeah.
Him and I started and he doesn't even probably remember this, but we were competitors for that job. His first job was at BAB in Babylon, Long Island, and it was a nighttime spot, and I was on their AM, the sister AM station at the time, and I went for that job that he got, which launched him. But I'm just bringing him up because yesterday he was talking about Pandora reached out to me to have my podcast on there. Listen, anybody who puts a podcast out there, you get on Pandora eventually anyway. It's just an RS feed, and all the situations picked it up. But he was making like it was a big deal that Pandora had asked him to be on their platform, which I just thought. But how far he's fallen. And last week he was in like a pissing contest with his old partner, Anthony Cumia, about how little he spends on his podcast and how low the production value is, so he can make as much money, and he's just doing it with a phone. So you talk about just lavaliers, a couple of lavaliers on. He's just basically a guy with a phone on his porch talking.
Yeah, I try and keep it minimal. I do the producing of the podcast, and like with everything else that I have going on, I got to keep it lean and mean for the most part.
Is the goal? What is the goal? Is it just to get more exposure for you for your comedy work, or what are you trying to achieve with the podcast?
I would say like right now the podcast is really, I mean, some exposure. It's nice to tell people. I mean, we've been slowly growing, but it's mainly it's a good tool to have in comedy, and like
I
just
think
doing it.
every comedian feels like they have to have one now. It's almost like it's like with the social media stuff, people feel like they have to do videos every day and all that kind of stuff. It's become kind of industry standard. If you're a comedian, you have to have a podcast, and I'm not sure that that's a good way of thinking. But
Yeah, and I don't think that way either. Like, I go through this weird debate with myself. Like, I hate telling people sometimes that I have a podcast because it's like everyone has a podcast.
right?
Like like a lot of people have cars. It's just like, oh look,
he is not lying. He is not lying. He and Damien were doing that podcast for a month before he told Damien that they were doing it.
I don't like calling this a podcast. I call it a radio show. I call it a live stream. All that kind of stuff. I try to avoid the word podcast, but it is how other people define it. So I often fall back on that without thinking about it. But I'm not happy about calling it a podcast.
Now, FYI, Ron is funnier than Tom Segura, and I won't complain or throw a hissy fit about that.
I was going to get to Tom Segura stuff, influences in comedy. Are you a fan of Tom Segura?
I do like some of his stuff. It's this is what I'll say about that. I think comedy right now in general has a real problem with punching down.
I do too.
And it's not one comic. You're seeing it a lot. And personally, I think that's terrible. That's horrible for comedy. Because comedy should be about speaking truth to power and, doing a reference and skewering everybody. Everyone deserves to be made fun of because everyone has stuff going on. And it's maybe in the delivery, but the whole punching down that's currently going on is not great. I don't like it.
All right. On that note, it's time to announce today's comedians who are funnier than Segura. A bum, get out of town. You're a bum, get out of town. I love that guy, whoever that guy was. Today, I want to point out Daniel Tosh, who I don't think gets enough people talking.
Jesus.
Yeah, never you. Doesn't get enough attention. Daniel Tosh is one of my favorite comedians, and he never punches down. He's always punching up, always kind of speaking truth to power, especially when it comes to church and religious services and things like that.
I would agree with that. Tosh Tosh is actually one of my favorite comics of all time. I love his 2 albums, Happy Thoughts and People Pleaser. I love People Pleaser just because there is such a mean streak running through that album,
Yeah.
because that's like after he went through that whole thing with the audience member, and he was telling her to go get raped, and there was some backlash about it. And then that album was recorded, I don't know, I guess months later, and there is such a mean streak running through it. I love it.
Yeah. He's a guy who people don't talk about. I don't know, since his show went off the air, he doesn't get anywhere near the attention. And basically, I'm just picking comedians out of my ass every day to say they're funnier than Tom Segura, and just waiting to see GD's reaction when it's not him every day.
Yeah, I mean, Tosh is doing okay because I think he works in Vegas all the time.
He's got a
It's
residency in
where he
Vegas, right?
performs.
Residency is a very cool thing, but I think it can be a very negative thing too, because it can make you lazy. It can make you, being hungry definitely helps you be more creative and will fuel. Go ahead, you got something?
Well, I just want to bring up that Daniel Tosh does have a bit where he talks about the prices of tickets to his shows being more expensive so that poor people can't come and kill him.
Oh, really? Oh, good.
Yeah, like he's got a bit where he says that specifically.
Yes, he does.
Well, yeah, but that's not necessarily punching down. That's out of like kind of making a joke about it.
And the thing I like about Daniel Tosh, and I think you touched on it a little bit too, Ron, is that he's an across the board offender. So like there's nobody, like if he's punching down on fucking everybody. He's no respecter of persons on who he's gonna make a joke about.
Right.
Yeah.
And that I can respect.
I want to, because this idea of keeping the poor people out so they won't kill them. Matt Rife, and I kind of touched on this yesterday, and then last night saw it again on his Twitter feed. He is basically daring people to fuck with him. And he said, I always hear from people who love my work, and they'll see me in public and say how much they love me. Where are the haters? How come they never say it to my face? Basically, kind of putting it like he thinks he's Bruce Lee or The Rock, Andre the Giant, all these kind of badasses rolled into one, and people are afraid of him. But I think that's a dangerous game to play, and I almost want to predict that he's going to get himself hurt by.
He's obviously never seen Blazing Saddles and doesn't know what happened to the Gene Wilder character.
Do you have any? Because I think haters are part of the game. If you're in entertainment or if you're saying anything, you're going to get some negative backlash. Have you had negative backlash from your comedy?
Yeah, I've had here and there. Like one of my favorite memories is I got asked to do some in between entertainment for a band. I knew the guitar or the bass player of the band, and he's like, "Hey, we're kind of doing things differently. We want to have something different. Would you mind coming doing a little bit?" And I'd always heard that as a comic performing between bands or at a rock show is a terrible idea. So I was like, yes, I want to try it. I want to see how bad it is.
Yeah, I want that shitty experience.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
I love the attitude.
Yeah, so I did it, and probably at that point I was I don't know, probably 2.5 years in of doing stand-up. And so I didn't really know how to start my sets. I had this one joke about suicide, and it was probably maybe my second joke in, and I started it.
Yeah.
I just started it, and this woman from the bar, she's like, "Oh no." And she's waving her hand and stuff. And so from that instant, it was kind of a battle because I had those people that were like, "What is going on here?" And then I had some of the other people in the bar. They were laughing, but then at the same time, they're like, "What the hell is going on right now?"
Lenny
Yeah.
Clark. Lenny Clark has a story about fighting a heckler while doing his act, and he continued doing his act. He was actually having a fist fight. A guy attacked him while on stage, and he was punching the guy, but he kept the mic and he kept telling the fucking jokes. Kept doing his act while in a fight. I think we were kind of talking about the polarization this morning. We had a author about politics on, and I think, and then I parlayed that into a video that Willie sent me about all this insanity that's happening in sports stadiums. I think it's just a matter of time, and we're seeing a little bit more and more where guys are getting rushed on stage. With the Chappelle guy with the gun knife or whatever, the knife gun, whatever that was. I think it's just a matter of time before. I don't want to call it cancel culture. It's just outrage culture and offense culture, and people just entitled to just. I don't like what you're saying, so I'm gonna get physically violent about it. I think it's just.
I don't even think it's outrage at this point. I think it's crossed over to, maybe they have some outrage, but at the same time, I almost feel like it's for attention because everyone has the
100%.
ability for attention. So why wouldn't I do this? I mean, that's almost why I've noticed. That's why like people heckle almost today.
Oh,
so
totally.
They can get they get some type of attention, and so
right. Well, they want that camera to turn on them, possibly.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
I can't imagine paying money to go to a club and thinking that it's a good idea to get into a argument or a back and forth rank out contest with a professional rank out guy, a guy who's.
I mean, I've had a number of friends over the years like say to me that if they come to a show, oh yeah, man, I'll fuck with you totally. And I've never had a friend do it, but bro, the day it happens, I'm probably gonna lose a friend. Because I'm gonna fucking burn them alive with my words.
Did you say to them that's not the intent here? Please don't come and fuck with me. That's not what I'm looking for.
I mean, I have said that. Yeah, no, like ones that I thought might actually be dumb enough to fucking heckle me and try and throw off my shit. I'm like, you realize that's like a bad thing, right? Like that's not something we want to happen.
Right.
And then they well, sometimes people do it and it's like it's a good thing. It could be like a setup for you. And I'm like, yeah, that's called using a plant, and it's frowned upon in the comedy world. Don't do that shit to me.
Right. Around Pennsylvania, we think of Pennsylvania, we think of Philly, we think of Pittsburgh. Very few people think of Harrisburg, and if you do, you're thinking of a nuclear accident.
That's comedy.
Yeah. What is the comedy scene like there? Is there a thriving comedy scene there? Is there a lot of clubs where you are? I mean, I don't know other than the 3 Mile, whatever the hell that was.
3 Mile Island Comedy Club, which is doing very well right now.
3 Mile Island incident 40, 50 years ago, whatever the hell that was. I don't really have any knowledge of Harrisburg. Tell me what it's like there.
I mean, it's kind of like every other Pennsylvania city, just terrible to live in or be around. But
comedy club wise, I mean, comedy scene wise, is there a lot of opportunity there? Are you going to Pittsburgh? You going to Philly? What do you?
There is one comedy club. We have the Harrisburg scene overall. There's a lot of talent. We have a lot of talent.
You're being polite and using that term loosely.
There's talent there, but like we have one comedy club. And in my opinion, it's kind of like the roadblock in our scene. But it's really better just kind of to branch out. Like where I live, I'm only an hour from Baltimore, 2 hours from Philly, hour and a half, 2 hours from DC. So there's lots of opportunity. You just got to be able to go out there and get it. But the scene itself, that we have plenty of talented comics. We have some great comics. It's just sometimes the scene doesn't know how to get out of its own way. And there's
Right.
It happens at every scene because there's people and fragile egos, and someone's always thinking, is someone getting something up on me? But if you know a little bit about the comedy business, there's always people on the come up and there's always people on the come down, and they switch all the time, because you could be on the way up, but then maybe a few months, maybe you're doing something that's taking you down. So it's always like that.
You think the people on the way down know it?
I think they do, and they're just scratching. I mean, yeah, obviously, maybe you have some that don't, but then they probably do. They do know, and they're scratching at any little scraps they can get.
Stanhope is latest movie. It's the one he starred in. He's had parts in movies, but this one he starred in is the Road Dogg movie, and it's about a comedian who is really, he's been a 30-year, they call him the Road Dogg, but he is clearly on his way down, but it doesn't appear that he knows it. It feels very real life in that sense when watching the movie, is because as somebody who does go see more comedy than the average consumer, goes to clubs more often than other people, I see it a lot. I see people who have been in the game 20 and 30 years who are clearly on their way down. They're still telling jokes that are out of time. They're dated jokes, dated material, and don't realize that as long as they're getting paid, they don't realize that and it's kind of sad to see. And they haven't settled into the new life of, I'm just going to be a local guy and just be, that's where I am in music. I have settled into a novelty old geezer act, but I'm comfortable with it and realize that. But it doesn't feel like comedians necessarily are self-aware enough to know they've been there.
Hey, I just want to step back for a second, Matt, because when you had mentioned cancel culture and comedy, I'm in the camp with like one of my favorite comedians too is Anthony Jeselnik, and he made a great point. He was on some podcast, and he was being asked about cancel culture, and his observation was, it's like, it's not a big deal, which I kind of agree with, and his point was, there's just consequences now for what you say. So the difference is now you got to be able to stand behind your joke. And I also believe too, as culture and language changes. There are certain words at one point in time that are favorable, then over time they fall out of favor.
Right.
And you kind of grow and adapt with that, instead of like a lot the way from my perspective, I see it as just like a lot of crabby old whites that I know that are like in my family. They're like, oh my God, so much is changing. Yeah, things have changed, and the field is different. But then on the same hand too, I also agree with Chappelle that he's dug in really deep on that. But really, the basic point is that everyone deserves to be made fun of, and if you've been making fun of one group for years, then all of a sudden they're making jokes about you. You got to be able to handle that,
right?
Yeah.
And I also understand, like, from their perspective, yeah, maybe they don't want certain words said. Well, that's fine, but you can still talk about it. No one is saying that you can't talk about it. You just got to do it differently and be better at it.
What do you think about fact-checking jokes? Because we've talked about that before on the show, about how comedians are starting to get fact-checked now.
That's the dumbest shit I ever heard. I mean, why would you do that? Because a joke is exaggeration.
Right.
It's part truth. It's exaggeration. Right. That's what makes a joke a joke. It's fun.
Yeah. You're like you're like taking away part of the formula.
White Cotton had on Twitter last night, so it made me laugh out loud. He said people are upset about Hassan Majid lying about 9/11 for profit. Where do they find out about it? United States of America. So yeah, I mean that whole I mean comedy, all creativity is based on the ability to exaggerate, sometimes fabricate storytelling ideas. But I think when you are using stuff to manufacture outrage, because I think that's what he with
Yeah.
Hassan. That's what basically what he was doing. He was trying to make things up that would get people politically charged up about whatever issues he would want to do, and that can be a bad thing. So I try to play the middle ground there. There really is no middle ground. You have to take a side on this, and if I have to take a side, I'm going to say don't fact check comedians. Just assume they're all lying.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Hassan is that he was like some of that material that he was doing and stuff. He's trying to pass it off like it really happened to him, and it was part of his life. So that there, especially when you're trying to sell it that way, that's definitely disingenuous.
What's the difference between that and the Machine with Bert Kreischer? Because Bert definitely tries to pass that off like it really happened. He's never been to Russia. I know he's never been to Russia because when asked what side of the road they drive on there, he couldn't answer that. Listen, if you've been to a country that they drive on a different side of the road, you remember that. And
I mean, he was probably too drunk to remember.
No, he was completely sober. It was Rogan asked when he first started to tell the story of the Machine. Rogan, one of the first questions Rogan asked him, "Oh, you've been to Russia? What side do they drive on there?" He said, "Oh, I should know that, but I don't." Yeah, you don't because you've never been there.
Well, I think.
Where do you draw the line between? Because I mean, obviously, Chrysler's not trying to use it to stir political outrage or any of that stuff. He's just trying to be funny. But it is a completely made-up story that he passes off as real, and I'm sure it never happened.
Well, there's parts of that that are real, but that's part of storytelling too. Is when you gather people. I mean, that's human existence. When people get together and you tell a story, like a really good storyteller digs in and exaggerates, knows where to put in, just the little caveats that like, oh, that's kind of ridiculous and things.
I learned how to tell stories from the great outdoors.
And in a way, it gets to be like if you're going to go to a magic show, you can't be trying to bust a magician because you're just going to ruin it for yourself.
Yeah.
With comedy, it's the same thing. Again, I wasn't looking to bust Bert Kreischer, but in that moment that he said that, it automatically turned off my suspense. I don't want to go along with this ride now because you just kind of outed yourself as a bullshit artist here. So, and I blame Rogan for asking him that question. Don't ask that question. He's telling you a story. Just go along with it. Don't start to question it. And when you start to question it,
and if someone's going through and fact checking comedians, you definitely have too much free time when you're
That's like somebody seeing how much time they spent pooping in prison.
Yeah.
Well, the comedian is not entertaining enough for you to listen to their story. You go like, "Wait, he's boring. I'm going to check this shit out."
I would say that it was counter agenda. In other words, somebody who has the opposite agenda of the comedian telling the story. But Hassan, he was definitely on the left, and the magazine that outed him, Vogue, I believe it was equally on the left. So I don't think that's what it is. But I think generally when that happens, that's what you're seeing is people who are on the other side of the political spectrum trying to, gotcha.
Well, I think it was one of the agents of one of the people who was competing with him for the job on Daily Show. I think it was one of their agents who did it.
Probably.
I have no idea. I'm just making that up.
No, I know you're being silly there, but I think there's probably a lot to that because I have said from the beginning that this whole idea of cancel culture in comedy, which is probably an overused term to say the least, but I do think it starts with people at the bottom of the game thinking if I could bring down the stars, then creates more opportunities for me.
Well, I move up one spot every time. Every time a superstar falls, I move up a spot. I keep track of it. I keep track.
You know
of
what?
it.
This reminds me of a really good etiquette question I have. So say somebody has a position, like a
Missionary.
job or whatever that you're interested in, and that person dies. How long do you need to wait before inquiring about that job you'd like to have?
Me, 30 seconds.
I think that's most people. I mean, they're obviously not at the job anymore, so what do they do?
Right. I'm like,
And
hey,
if you know they're sick, you actually start beforehand.
Well, this is my conundrum. And I think I brought this up. I got a gig subbing for a guy who was, and I often subbing for him. And then the manager of the club said, "The crowd likes you better. Do you want the gig?" And it's like, this is a friend of mine who gave me lots of opportunities. And then it becomes a moral issue. Do I say, yeah, I want the gig, kind of fire him and get me? Or I say, and what I did, I said, let's talk about that when it happens. Meaning, if you fire him, then call me first.
Right.
But
that's pretty stand up, though. That's pretty stand up to say, hey, look, if you want to do that, you got to deal with him first. You know what I mean? That's a stand up move, in my opinion.
I don't know about.
I didn't even know Matt had that in him. I'm surprised. Kudos, man.
I don't know. The right thing is, do I think, if I'm being morally judgmental about myself, would be to say, let's not. It's his gig for now. But whatever. So
and performers, they're because it's so easy to find someone to do the job cheaper than you. They don't care. But then on the same token, too, like when you're saying someone dies, how long do you wait to ask for the job? It's probably as soon as you find out, especially in a corporation, because in a corporation, they don't give a shit.
Yeah, somebody's moving into that pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you call, like, I work for a huge corporation that's outsourcing my job in January to Mexico.
They didn't wait for you to die.
They didn't wait, and they don't give a fuck. They just see me as a number. They give you this whole story of like, oh yeah, we care and blah blah blah. It's like, yeah, you don't.
I just remembered why guns shouldn't be allowed in offices.
yes. And there's no that's not true. I was going to say there's not like a lot of alcohol. The bosses all have alcohol.
The bosses do. Yeah. That's only in Mad Men. That's only.
And the working force, the blue collar people are doing it on their lunch break. They're going out to the cars.
Yeah, that cooler is full of fucking beer. Yeah.
And, most people don't drink on the job anymore. You got to snort Adderall at your desk. That's
I don't think that's true at all, because I've walked into restaurants and seen employees with like little shooters in their fucking back pocket. Like, fucking hell. Like, Jesus.
But all that, not to get too heavy here, but the idea of corporations, it's like an animal. Animals don't care. The minute one of theirs die, most animals, they don't spend a whole lot of time mourning or feeling sentimental about it. It's just like, okay, what did he leave behind that we can use?
Right.
Yeah. Dave died. Let's get his shoes. I got dibs on his shoes, that kind of thing. But to give your life to a corporation when they are just, or any big company that just views you as a number, you kind of, it's silly to really put that, and that's not the American, go spirit of the American worker. But if you're putting too much care into your job, remember, they don't give a shit. The minute you die, it's let's get his shoes, let's get his, I want his seat, that kind of.
Ron, are you selling? Do you need to sell some tickets while you're down there in Texas for a show that you're maybe doing with some guy named, what's his name, Joshua?
Yeah. I was waiting for that, GD. Thanks for.
Yeah. What's this about? Tell me about what are you doing?
Well, I'm currently in Austin, Texas right now. I'm down here for a show this Friday in San Antonio, hosting for Josh Dewey, who's headlining the Upstage Comedy Lounge in San Antonio. Show starts at 7:30. I think tickets start at $15.
Tonight?
So, Friday night. That's
Friday
this
night.
Friday the 20th.
Right. Okay, that's tomorrow.
And Josh Dewey is a very funny young man. And I will say, matter of fact, I'm going to tell you his 12 best jokes right now, so you don't have to go. No, I'm just teasing.
That would be really brutal.
That'd be so
I'm just teasing because he doesn't have 12 good jokes. I'm just, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. I really do
wait
like
a
Josh.
minute. I'm just trying to break this
I
down.
love Josh. I love Josh. And I'm saying that because if I didn't pick on Josh and he saw this, he would think I had a fever or something.
Right.
So this is for you, Josh. Love
I
you.
was just trying to break that down as $15, 12 jokes. What does that come down to? Like $1.20 a joke or something, $1.10 or something like that. Austin, how long you been in Austin?
I got here yesterday. And
have you been there much since? So listen, sometime in the pandemic, I think it was Rogan who decided that comedy is moving to Austin and making that the Mecca, and people just said, "Oh yeah, Rogan says so. We gotta go there."
I mean, it's happening.
Is it happening? That was going to be my question. Do you sense that? Because I know people jumped on the bandwagon to move there, but is it really going to? 10 years from now, will Austin still be a destination for comedy and the must-go destination that people think it is now?
Well, if Texas still has water at that point, maybe. But that'll be the real question. It's a very thriving scene. The biggest issue that I've seen is that because there's such a divulge of new comics, the scene is really tough because there's a lot of bad comedy because it's just a lot of people starting out. So you have a lot of comics that are,
terrible.
Just been doing it less than a year. And we all know when you start comedy, you're not good.
No.
You're not good.
We don't all know that.
No, I was the exception. I was
think
great from
the four of
my
us
ninth
might
minute.
know that, but we certainly don't all know that. Or people every day, I wouldn't hear from open micers who said they killed it first time out. I killed it, and I'm still killing. I've been in it 6 months, and I haven't had a bad show, and I'm killing all the time. I get a lot of that. So
yeah, it's like it's hard to say. I mean, there is a lot going on in Austin, and like talking to some of the other comics. Like Rogan and his crew definitely have the stranglehold on Austin currently in the downtown area, and there is a lot of comedy there. So it's an interesting scene.
right.
There's definitely a lot going on. Will it be still thriving like that? I would think so. I mean, it all depends. Like I said, if Texas has water, so
Yeah, and resources in general. Texas has probably power grids and all sorts of stuff. So,
well, yeah. I mean, if you haven't read, the Colorado River has been drying up
right
for a very long
A
time.
long time. Yeah.
And I know this is very exciting for comedy fans to hear this, but yeah, there's currently a battle that's like on the horizon for like water rights that come up in like 2025.
Yeah,
like,
you're
so
not even allowed to
crazy.
collect the rainwater in Colorado. Did you know that? That's against the law.
that's ridiculous.
That is strange.
Now, is this part of? Are you on a tour, or did you just go from York, Pennsylvania, to Austin, Texas, like just for this gig?
Well, originally, I was down here in August, in the beginning of August as well with Josh. He was performing at Roscoe's in Austin. And originally I wanted, because I booked this, and originally I wanted to have him in Austin one night and in San Antonio the next night, because that logistically that makes sense. But then the one club gave me, they wanted to do an open mic the one night, and I'm like, well, you got a comic from Philly, a good comic. Why wouldn't you postpone your mic and try and sell some tickets that night? I mean, that's business. I mean, that makes sense to me, but they
Yeah.
didn't want to do that.
Yeah. Oh, we
And
don't want to disrupt our usual thing.
yeah,
You
so
know, yeah.
he kind of he didn't give me a solid date, and for the second date. So when I was down here in August, I showed up at the club and met him face to face, and he wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, how about that date in October?" And he was like, "All right, let's do it."
He has to do it because you're there. On the phone, he
Yeah.
probably would have turned it down.
Yeah,
It's a lot harder to say no to somebody's face. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Good. That's my issue with booking. I think I do too much of it through email and over the phone, and I think it would definitely facilitate more urgency if you go there. And but I was the reason I asked was because of the economics of it. To go to one city for make a long trip, it definitely impacts the profitability of it, as opposed to having a tour of dates that are lined up that makes sense so that you maximize your profitability on all of it.
yeah,
And
and
go
yeah.
ahead.
Like I'm definitely I'm not making money on these trips. This is all about experience and exposure, and because I do stand up, and then the other part too is I produce a lot of comedy shows as well, and I really like producing comedy shows. So all the money that I'm making from doing shows, which isn't like huge money, but I take all that money and funnel it back into what I'm doing. So
Right.
I
Okay, Ron
finance.
is being polite. He's making dozens of dollars producing shows. Okay,
Dozens.
dozens of dollars.
I brought up
I'm,
Matt Rife before, but I wanted to talk about something that he said to Segura in that podcast that made my ears perk up, which was, and I think it's possible but not probable for everybody. He said 18 months ago, he was profiting $150 to fly into a city and go do a gig. And somewhere in the last 18 months, he blew up. And I think I know how he blew up and why he blew up, and I think it's this confrontational thing. But I think that can have, so there's hope that you can go from profiting $150 for a headlining in one night in one city to a guy who is now blowing up and selling out dates for the next 2 years in a row. It can
But
happen to anybody.
yeah, but that's also sad and indicative of this of this shitty comedy business, because the pay structures at comedy clubs are still the same as they
It's so
were
stupid.
30, 40 years ago. And
Yeah.
that's just ridiculous, because why is a club it's just sad when you got a feature performer and they're making like $100 maybe, over a night or something, or maybe that whole weekend, and you gotta hope that the headliner likes you and maybe they'll give you a tip.
Toss you a little bit extra because the headliner is making, can make, some of these headliners, especially if they're doing a week's run, I mean, they can be making 8 to 12 grand easy.
Yeah, I know a comic that worked with a very well-known comic, and he's worked with them before. This guy's on Netflix and stuff, and he's worked with him before and as his feature, and he wouldn't tip him. Like, he made a shit ton of money one weekend, and he just asked him, he's like, "Did you get paid?" And he's like, "Yeah," and that was it. He didn't give him a tip. So
His tip was, "Don't work with me, you stupid bastard. I'm a cheap fuck."
Yeah.
I got a
so
tip for you. When you're working for or in conjunction with a comedy club, and they have a deadline for you to get off of their network by 10:45, you shouldn't wait until 10:53 or 10:54 to say goodbye, Govs. We'll see you tomorrow.